I was born in a small village where dreams were often limited by circumstances. Our village had narrow roads, simple houses, and a single government school with cracked walls and broken benches. Electricity came and went like an uninvited guest, and books were considered a luxury. My parents were hard-working people who believed in honesty and education, even though they themselves had not studied beyond primary school. Among all the challenges we faced, one thing was clear from my childhood: if I wanted to change my life, I would have to struggle for it. From an early age, I was fascinated by doctors. In our village, the nearest hospital was many kilometers away. Whenever someone fell seriously ill, the family would rush them to the city, often too late. I saw pain, helplessness, and loss. I remember one night when my neighbor's child died because there was no doctor available in time. That night, as I watched the adults cry silently, something awakened inside me. I decided I wanted to become a doctor, not for money or fame, but to save lives. However, dreams alone are not enough. Reality soon showed me how difficult that path would be. The first barrier: English. As I progressed in school, I realized that science, especially medicine, depended heavily on English. All textbooks, reference materials, and examinations were in English. For me, English was not just a subject, it was a wall standing between my dream and me. In my village school, English was taught mechanically. Teachers focused on grammar rules without explaining their meaning. We memorized answers without understanding them. Speaking English was almost forbidden, students were laughed at if they tried. I was afraid of making mistakes, so I remained silent. When I first opened a science textbook in English, I felt lost. The words looked strange, sentences confusing, and meanings unclear. I wondered how I could ever become a doctor when I could not even understand the language of medicine. Many of my classmates gave up. They chose easier paths. Some said, "English is not for people like us." Others believed only city students could succeed. For a moment, I almost believed them. But then I remembered the crying parents, the helpless patients, and my childhood promise. I made a decision: if English was the key, I would learn it, no matter how long it took. Learning English the hard way. I did not have access to English-speaking environments, expensive coaching centers, or private tutors. What I had was determination. I started with small steps. I borrowed English newspapers from a shopkeeper and tried to read them aloud, even though I understood very little. I bought an old English dictionary and carried it everywhere. Whenever I encountered a new word, I looked it up and wrote it in a notebook. At first, progress was painfully slow. I often forgot words and misunderstood sentences. Sometimes I felt embarrassed and frustrated. But I reminded myself that learning any language is like learning to walk: you fall many times before you stand. I began listening to English news on the radio. I did not understand much, but I listened carefully to pronunciation and rhythm. I watched English movies with subtitles whenever I could. I paused scenes, repeated dialogues, and practiced speaking in front of a mirror. People laughed at me when they heard me speaking broken English. Some mocked my accent, but I chose not to let their words stop me. I knew every mistake was a step forward. Gradually, English stopped being a stranger. English and confidence. As my English improved, something unexpected happened: my confidence grew. I started answering questions in class. I could read science textbooks without fear. Concepts that once felt impossible now made sense. English was no longer just a subject. It became a tool, a bridge connecting me to knowledge, opportunity, and the world. During higher secondary school, I participated in debates and science exhibitions. For the first time, I spoke in English in front of an audience. My voice trembled, but my heart was strong. Each time I spoke, I felt closer to my dream. When I prepared for medical entrance examinations, English played a crucial role. Understanding questions correctly, reading reference materials, and learning advanced concepts all depended on it. Many students failed not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked language skills. I worked day and night. I studied biology, chemistry, and physics with renewed energy. Whenever I struggled, I reminded myself how far I had come, from a frightened village child to a confident student. Becoming a medical student. The day my entrance exam results were announced was one of the happiest days of my life. I had been selected for medical college. My parents cried tears of joy. The villagers celebrated as if it were their own victory. Medical college was a completely different world. Students came from cities, English medium schools, and educated families. Lectures were delivered entirely in English. Medical terminology sounded like a foreign language within a foreign language. For a moment, fear returned. But this time, I was prepared. I attended every lecture carefully. I asked questions without hesitation. I read textbooks thoroughly and used online resources to improve my understanding. English was still challenging, but it no longer scared me. Late nights, endless exams, practical sessions, and emotional pressure became part of my life. There were moments of exhaustion and self-doubt. But every time I wore my white coat, I felt proud. I was not just studying medicine. I was proving that language barriers could be broken. English in medical practice. As I moved into clinical practice, I realized how important English truly was. Medical research, journals, case studies, and global guidelines were all in English. To be a good doctor, I had to keep learning continuously. At the same time, I also learned the importance of communication. A doctor must not only understand medical language but also explain it in simple words to patients. My journey helped me do both. I could read international research papers and also speak gently to villagers in their native language. I became a bridge between advanced medical knowledge and ordinary people. English gave me access to global medicine, but my roots kept me human. Returning to my village. After completing my degree, I returned to serve in rural areas. Many people were surprised. Some asked why I did not choose a big city or foreign opportunities. My answer was simple: this is where my dream was born. When villagers saw me as their doctor, their trust touched my heart deeply. Parents brought their children to me with hope instead of fear. I treated patients who once had no access to medical care. Sometimes, I used English to consult specialists, read updated treatments, or attend online medical seminars. Other times, I used my mother tongue to comfort patients and explain procedures. I realized then that learning English did not take me away from my people, it empowered me to serve them better. Lessons from my journey. My journey taught me many important lessons. Language is not a talent, it is a skill. Anyone can learn it with patience and practice. English is not a symbol of superiority, it is a tool for opportunity. Dreams do not care about your background, only your determination. Education becomes powerful when it is used to help others. I learned English, but more importantly, I learned courage. I became a doctor, but more importantly, I became someone who did not give up. Message to students. To every student who feels scared of English, I want to say this: do not let fear decide your future. Make mistakes. Speak badly. Write poorly. That is how learning begins. English may open doors, but your hard work will decide how far you go. I am living proof that a child from a small village can learn English and become a doctor, not because it was easy, but because it was possible. Conclusion. I learned English, I became a doctor, is not just the title of my story, it is the truth of my life. English was once my biggest weakness, but it became my greatest strength. It connected me to knowledge, confidence, and purpose. Today, when I stand in a hospital wearing my white coat, I remember the boy who struggled to read his first English sentence. I smile and whisper to myself, if he could do it, anyone can.